So when someone says to you, how's it going today? What do you say? Likely you say, I'm doing fine, thank you, how are you? And then you respond by the same token comment, oh, I'm fine too, thanks for asking. It's kind of a, a hackneyed cliche that we all say commonly, and it's not really genuine. Oftentimes, if you admit it, you really don't care how their day's going, and they don't care how your day's going. It's just a thing that we say. Well, when people ask me, how you doing today, Rocky? Quite often I say, best day of my life. Seriously, I do that. Most of the time they just kind of give me that look like, really, they're shocked. They don't know what to say because, well, that's a pretty bold statement. Why is it the best day of your life? Most of the time they don't ask that. They just go, I'll say to them, how about you? And they'll say, oh, I'm okay. Just okay, huh? Well, most of the time I think we really are just okay in our minds, even though things are really much better for us than they could be most of the time. But I genuinely say, best day of my life. Now, there's a radio station that a few years ago started saying best day ever. I don't think that really captures it personally, because when you say best day of my life, you're making it personal. You're making an actual statement rather than say just best day ever. It seems like another cliche that people have kind of jumped onto, and it's probably a good thing if people say that, but it's still not personalized. Now, why do I say that today? Especially for a couple of reasons, but let me go back to when I first said that. 2014. I had a new career. It was pretty overwhelming, but it was exciting. Stress was building up. Oh man, health was kind of going downhill again back then even. But there was a period of wintertime where it was really cold, constantly snowing. Every time I'd wake up, my car was covered with snow, and I'd always get all upset, like, oh man, I gotta brush this thing off again. Well, I do live in Michigan, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Anyhow, I thought, just having a bad attitude about it isn't going to make it go away. Why not change my attitude? So I did. I committed myself to say, best day of my life, and really mean it. And it really did change things. Just changing the way you say things and giving a real effort to believe in it does make things happen better. I felt, energized every time I came in to work in the morning. People asked, how you doing, Rocky? And I said, best day of my life. It just gave energy to me, and it was fun, seeing the reactions of people and how they would react. But the reason I'm, today specifically, I've got some pretty good health report, with the things that are happening with me. I've got my blood work done, and everything except one item is really in the exceptionally good range, which tells me that my efforts to reset my health, anyways, my diet and exercise, is paying off. That's a little bit of an encouragement that I really needed to have. I was really praying that that report would come in at least no worse, but preferably better, and it definitely did. And one of the things that I committed myself to changing a few months ago was attitude. I don't think I have a bad attitude, but I certainly don't have one that's really super positive, positive outlook on everything like some folks have. Sometimes people are really positive, and it gets me down because how can you be so positive? But I hope they don't ever hear me saying that, because I hope they continue to be positive. They say, are you a glass half full person or a half empty? Quite often I would say, no, I'm a glass full person. It's just that half of that glass is water and the other half is a gas, which is scientifically accurate, and I tend to be scientifically accurate when I can. Or sometimes I'll say I'm a broken glass person because my glass is half full, but I can't help it. There's a crack in the side of it. No matter how hard I try, it just keeps leaking out, and I end up glass half empty. But a positive attitude doesn't just come by itself. I suppose maybe some people it is a natural thing, but for many of us, it's not. When rough things happen, things that are disappointing, It's easy to give in to the dark side and, just look at the negative and speak about the negative. But when you do change that attitude, you become more positive, even if you got to forcefully do it. And even if you fail at it and you have to keep starting all over and remind yourself, I need to be more positive. I need to look on the bright side. I need to look at the good things in life. Things will change. People will accept you. People will like to be around you more. And your health will probably be much better. I read a book some years ago. Actually, I read the thing twice. Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. I can't really remember exactly, all the things that the book said. And I have to say, I didn't really agree with much of what he said, because even though I think the guy's a Christian, he really was looking, I took it like a lot of New Age kind of thinking, which I would oppose. There's probably some good things about New Age thinking, but the religious aspect of it is probably not a good thing to dwell on. But anyways, there are some things in that book that are scientific that I don't think you can disagree with. That when you have positive thoughts, there are, endorphins? Hopefully I got that right. That your brain produces. And it causes positive reactions. And then you got the negative one. That could be cortisol. I think that's a stress hormone. But there's a negative one that when you think and do negative stuff, that it produces that negative substance, which breaks down your health. So just changing your attitude alone and thinking and being positive has positive benefits on your life. There's a Bible verse. There's several Bible verses about this. In fact, Philippians 4:8 is one of the most direct statements about this. And it goes something like this. It says, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, think on these things. So that's a direct command. It's not a suggestion or recommendation. It's a command. Think on these things. And when you do that, science already has proven. People talk about believing the science. Well, this is one of them that I can agree with. Science pretty much proves that, good things are going to happen if you think and act positively. And there's another verse in the Bible. It's from Proverbs 18. A lot of people use this and probably use it incorrectly. And maybe I'm using it incorrectly today. I didn't really do a lot of research on it, but it says the power of life and death is in the tongue. And I think what that's directly talking about is when you verbally abuse people. You can cut a person down and belittle them. And it actually takes effect in that person's life. There are people who have probably done bad things themselves, maybe even taken their own life because so many people, cut them down and just paid no attention to them or belittled them or showed them very little value. On the other hand, when people speak good of you and talk you up and compliment you and see the good in your life and share that with you, I know in my own life when people have done that to me, it has energized me and motivated me, and perhaps it's, a large part of, being successful in what I've done over the years. I certainly can't attribute most of the good things that have happened to me to my own efforts or myself. It's pretty much come from the input, investment, and assistance of other people in my life. Words really matter. And there's other things. I remember an older gentleman that I used to see quite often. He would speak about smiling. He says, if you smile, people cannot not smile back. Well, I disagree with that because I've tested that, and it doesn't really work 100%. But when you do smile, most of the time, if it's a genuine smile, people do respond positively. And smiling even speaks to your own body. Body language doesn't speak just to other people, but when you exhibit body language, your own body responds the same way that other people respond to you. It's pretty incredible how that works. But I'm one of those guys who was born with the wrong muscles. They say it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. I don't know if I believe that either. It does take effort for me to smile. It's just not natural, it seems. And when I do, a lot of times it doesn't look natural. But that's one of those things that I put on my list as well to start doing more, and that is smiling. And maybe I have to go to a class on learning actually how to use the correct muscles to do it the correct way. Another thing that I've learned over the years, read it in a number of success books and seminars that I've gone to, someone would quite often mention, hang out with the right people. Yeah, this gets into success in general. If you want to be successful, hang out with successful people. If you want to lose weight, hang out with people who don't eat much and exercise all the time. If you want to be really smart and brilliant, hang out with people who are intellectual. If you want to learn how to, be a good book reader, join a book club. I've heard one of those individuals even said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Think about that. Really do. Think about who the people are that you spend the most time with. And then just look into your own life and examine it and see how much of those things they do, you do also. And most likely you like those people and would like to emulate them anyways. But if not, you might want to reconsider your friends. And when it comes to having a positive attitude, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard for me to find that because I work in in manufacturing, where a lot of time manufacturing has a lot of bad attitudes going around. I actually find it entertaining and somewhat refreshing to know that other people have got a worse attitude than I do about certain things. But it can drain you after a while. So I do review the people that I hang out with, which I don't hang out with a lot of people, but I do review the people I hang out with. And I ask myself, are they having a positive influence on me? Or maybe am I having a positive influence on them and maybe I need to change that? A lot of times attitude also can go downhill when you think of things that aren't going well in life. And we all have those. But I think most of the time, if we wrote a list, we would come up with a far greater list of good things in our life than things that are not. And that attitude can be much improved by dwelling on the good things, the blessings, the favor from God and other people. And just the fact that most all of you, I know a few are not from the United States, but nearly all of you watching this are very likely to have been born in the United States, probably in the 1950s, 60s, or 70s, because that's the people who listen to me most of the time. And when you compare where we live and all the things that we have with the rest of the world, we have no reason to complain, really, much out about anything. And just the simple things, we've got a lot of complex things in this country and in our lives, things that are really super cool, and they kind of suck our attention out of us, when really just enjoying the simple things of life. Just like this, walking out here in the woods, nobody out here, no animals either, I don't know where they all are, probably too snowy, but this is really refreshing and energizing, and really a great day to be out here in this snow and the cold, and actually accepting it, and furthermore embracing it. When you start embracing those things that you once rejected, I think that builds character. It builds a little bit of toughness and resilience, endurance. Those are things that the Bible tells us are good traits to have. We often don't have them in our modern comfort society, with everything going the way we want. And the little things that don't, we complain about. Building a bad attitude again. So if anybody asks you, how's it going? Do you dare say, best day of my life? Why don't you try it once? See if it changes your attitude, see if it changes your life. If nothing else, just see the reaction in the person who asked you and heard your response. Until next time, thanks for watching.